right. So first of all, thank you all of you guys joining us tonight, guests and wonderful visitors alike. We're here with the crowdfunding event number 5 for Anachoma, and we have 3 wonderful journalists joining us who all covered the Evros beforehand in various ways. For the people who would not know you, can I first ask you guys to introduce yourselves? Maybe we can start with Bastien and then roll over from then.
Sure. So my name is Bastien Deschamps. I'm a French photographer. I will just correct you. I'm not really a journalist. I'm doing more like the creative documentary, what I'm calling like geopoetic photography. So it's more about talking about social or society issue, but more on an emotional level, not trying to explain too much, but more like to, I mean, I don't have the pretension to be able to explain or even to fully understand the situation, especially like talking about the Evros region. But it's more about bring the viewer to feel a bit more the situation than to explain it to him.
All right. Antonis, do you want to go next?
Yep. I'm a journalist based in Thessaloniki. I was covering the refugee matters from 2015. I've been to Evros many times for doing reportage and research there. And by searching about Evros, because even that I'm from Greece, I have never been in Evros before. Like most of the people that are doing the service, the military service there, I was lucky because I was a journalist that did my military service in Thessaloniki. I didn't go to Evros. But by searching, I found out that many ugly things were happening in Evros, not the last years, but for decades. On the matter of migration and people trying to cross from Turkey to Greece.
Thank you. And Zubair? You're muted right now. No worries.
Technology.
Yeah.
I'm Zubair Koçulu, London-based investigative journalist. In the past, I covered, I focused on Middle East and immigration to Europe. I covered the Syrian civil war. I also worked in the Iraqi Kurdistan after the ISIS invasion and stuff. I closely follow the clashes, the destabilization in the Middle East, and also I worked on the Greek-Turkish border, both sea border and land border. Yeah, I also spent a lot of time on Evros, and I publish investigative reports on police brutality, human rights violations on the border, deportations, pushbacks, and yeah, some of the investigations I still follow up and I still work on it.
All right. So first of all, thank you again for being here. Again, apologies then to you, Bastien, that I mislabeled you as a journalist, but you're definitely people with around cameras and your own tools who have been covering this field for quite an extended amount of time and through all very different lenses. So my first question would be, maybe we can keep the order like this, just so I don't have to repeat myself on all ends, but what was sparking your initial interest in covering the Evros? What was the initial source of motivation that you felt like this needs some reporting on it?
Bastien, you were first.
Yes,
Yeah. I was.
It was a dramatic pause.
Yeah, it was a dramatic pause, and I was thinking. I mean, that was okay. When I decided to come here, I didn't know anything about the situation in Evros, to be perfectly honest. My intention was to talk about the region. Meaning I started this project about border rivers in the world and was one of the chapter. So I was kind of fascinated by the idea of this place to be, it's always been some kind of crossroad between civilization. It has a meeting point between East and West. So my first idea when I went there was to, document a bit what is emerging for this kind of cultural mix and everything. Okay, that was the original idea because I didn't even know what was happening, to be honest. I think I didn't even know the word pushback. And then I went there, and after spending some time on the Turkish side in Edirne mostly, I started to meet people, to hear stories, to get a bit of testimonies. And then I realized my original idea didn't make any sense. And documenting what was happening right now at the border in terms of, I mean, the refugee crisis and human rights violation made sense. It didn't make sense to do anything else. So that's how I came to document it, basically. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense, but it's
No, no worries. I think we'll have plenty of time to elaborate afterwards. But yes,
Yeah.
I get you. Antonis, could you please tell us a little bit about your angle?
The interesting thing about Bastien, because I have made an interview with Bastien also, is that he had an idea about what borders are. I mean, generally in the whole Europe, people, they believe that borders is the borders that they're seeing between, I mean, Austria and Germany, France and Belgium. There are no borders. But Evros River, it is a real border. I think Bastien realized it only when he went there. I mean, that is a border. There's a lot of tension. I mean, there's always a feeling that you have when you go around the river that not that is not safe, but that is a dark place. I mean, I have never felt very comfortable nearby the river. I was always thinking that something could happen. I mean, around the river. So it was very interesting about Bastien that he changed from his first idea when he was describing his idea about these rivers connecting and dividing. I was thinking, poor Bastien, you're going to go there and see. Okay, so I went to Evros because I'm a freelance journalist. I'm working for international media. So wherever the media wants to go, I have to go also. So when I started searching and working about migration, about refugee stories, I was always in Idomeni, in the borders between Greece and North Macedonia. The first time that I went in Evros, it was 2016 for RAI. And for me, it was revealed something new that I didn't know because I didn't, here in Greece, we are doing an army service. Most of the people are going to Evros for a period. Because I was a journalist, I was lucky. I did my service in Thessaloniki, so I never had an idea what Evros is. And the militarization, the way of thinking of people, what is happening in these dark places, in a place that a very good friend of mine and journalist from Al Jazeera, Lawrence Lee, described it as a vast nothingness. He said, the vast nothingness. So yeah, I went there covering the refugee stories for international media. First, I went there for RAI, and then I went for many others, many times.
Thank you as well. Zubair, can you tell us a little bit about yours?
Yeah, I briefly mentioned that I worked also in in the Middle East in the civil war. So I can say that I'm coming from the root of the problem. So I was on the Turkish Syrian border, let's say, like after the civil war started in 2011, and only after so many people tried to also leave Turkey for Europe. Europe was alarmed, and what sparked my interest about Evros and in general Greek-Turkish border. It's not only about the border between Greece and Turkey. It's more related to the European, Europe's politics in the Middle East, like America's policies in the Middle East, we have been following Iraq, in the invasion of Afghanistan, Iraq, destabilization all around the Middle East. And to me, Evros, I agree with Antonis. While I spent time around Evros, also I felt similarly, it's dark, full of surprises, and yeah, very good description, by the way. Yeah, I like it. To me, it's the failure of the politics of the regional powers and the Europe. So it's like it comes to my mind another question. Okay, there are so many war clashes, destabilization, all kinds of political problems, but then why people, like from different countries, from Asia, from the Middle East, from the MENA, from Africa, they come to the Turkish-Greek border and then they risk their lives and they try to reach Europe. To me, it's not only the border between Greece and Turkey, it's more about the world politics, and clearly it's the failure of the world politics that we can elaborate more in the following question, maybe. Yeah, so that's what, like, why I showed an interest, and then like I started to follow the immigration and the pushbacks, because as Amnesty International described it, it's like the pushbacks stopping people on the move from Turkey to Europe, and mobilizing some mobs to stop people. It's a de facto European border policy, and to me, it's more political than just seeing it as a, because there are several borders around the globe that, like so many things happening, but Evros is the entrance gate to Europe, and it's not only about one country, it's about the whole MENA, Europe, America, and everyone. Yeah.
Thank you again as well. Yeah, I remember back in 2020, right, in the beginning of March, when the so-called now March event started to happen, Ursula von der Leyen flew, of course, to the Evros region as well, and with a joint press release with Mitsotakis at the time referred to the Evros as the Aspida of Europe, as so to speak, the shield of Europe and the protectorate role that the tiny region and terrain plays into the protectorate. And I think another great word is also the self-definition of, I think, a lot of people connect to the border, and the akrites, right, which also comes from a fairly old time out of the Byzantine Empire, of like how people view these frontiers when surrounded in there. But again, it's a wonderful pleasure to talk to all three of you and to have this wide-ranging cross-section from angles and materials and actual output that you produce. And maybe now is really the time that we can go a little bit into depth about it. So again, for the sake of keeping order, I'm going to kick off with Bastien. And for anybody who would not know you, you've been working a tremendous amount on basically a very holistic angle, just as Anthony said, what borders particularly mean. And you currently work on a photo project, if I'm not mistaken, called Where the Border Runs, right? Which examines many of these inputs, and it does so through these very strong, completely black and white images that are sampled from the terrain and also tell a little bit of the emotional reality beyond that. So first question to you, what is particularly important for you when you start to prepare for such a shoot, or for a day in the field, when you actually visit the area? What is certain nuances of the stories that particularly excite you feel drawn to, and what priorities do you have while you operate?
What is important when do I prepare? To not prepare too much, actually. I mean, I've got like maybe a weird way of working, but most of the time I'm not really sure what I'm doing. Obviously, I do a bit of research beforehand, but not too much. I want to stay what I call a bit naive, but like in a good way, like meaning like I'm open to, I open to what's happening. I don't want to have any preconception or whatever. It's like, yeah, like that I'm able to, I don't know, to feel a bit more, to discover more. And then I do the intellectualization of it later on, like when I'm back home, when I edit photograph, when I'm trying to make sense of all the material I get, but not beforehand. Yeah, I mean, basically I'm really going with the flow. It depends of the meeting. Personal meeting are always the most important, like who you meet, who's gonna bring you another angle, another voice. And that's kind of my way of working. So that's why as well, I'm doing always like kind of long immersive travel. Like in Evros, I spent about 6 months, like twice 3 months, one journey on each border. It's just to take the time and to let the time for things to happen by themselves. It's not really, not really. That's why I corrected you first when I said like journalistic is not like I don't want to be called a journalist, but I'm not in my methods.
A quick question before we move on there, actually, also just in brackets for anybody who joined us with this event now, the Insta stories and Facebook stories that were published in the anticipation of this event, they were all photographs from you. So if you want to see more of Bastien's photography, highly recommend to visit his website in the description of the event. But the question that I wanted to add is that what I think is particularly powerful also about your work is that it is that the contextualization of the larger piece comes together in the composition, right? Many of the subject matters that you chose to highlight all just kind of really repel more sense when somebody has a bit of more depth. Like for example, like you have images of a shoelace, or for example, the image that we also decided to incorporate within Ahmed's posters, which is of course the what's called the road plate that has bullets in it. So is there something of like telling the story from a micro perspective about the macro, or is it mainly just like really these quick rushes that you get while you keep this naivety and this engagement of like discovering nuances in the field?
I mean, in general, I don't really like picture which give you answers. I like better like picture with asking questions. So that's why most of the time there is not really. I mean, if you don't get like more of it, you don't really understand. But it comes together when you got like a full sequence or a full object or few objects together. When I'm talking about objects, it's because like this Evros, I'm started to work a bit differently, like narratively speaking, instead of like doing like a kind of a linear narrative, like for a book, by example. I've been working more with like different mini series, meaning like to get like this non-linear narrative, like each series, each object is kind of one piece of the big mess of a puzzle. Is Evros, so I don't know if it's answer to your question, but
No, I think I get it. Like it's like, as somebody who's been also trying to cover this piece for the last 3 years, I do definitely understand that there's a lot of fragmentation and there's definitely more excitement when these things fall into together out of their own puzzles. And well, like,
and I
I
mean
would
it's for me it's such a complex issue. I really don't have the pretension to explain it, even understanding it. It's things seems like straight. It's more like giving you some pieces and lets you kind of have a feeling of what's going on, and then you take your responsibilities.
No, responsibility is a very great point that we can, I think, actually talk about a little bit later onwards. But now, just to keep time and track for everything, Antonis, I mean, you have been covering the Evros through a very different lens. And also, I think one aspect that perhaps was not mentioned is that, I mean, you also founded your own magazine with Human Stories, if I'm not mistaken, also based within Thessaloniki. And I mean, you've been covering the Evros basically on commission for the biggest media corporations on the planet, may it be BBC, Al Jazeera, or what have you. How do you approach kind of the same challenges that lie in the field? Like, how do you put together a shooting schedule or subject matters that are worthy or necessary to highlight for these big media conglomerates that come?
Yeah. First of all, I have to say that the Bastien aspect of Evros is very interesting when you combine it with us, that we are journalists, because he's approaching the story from a feeling perspective. We are approaching the matter on the level of news. So the level of news sometimes is very dry, but on the level of feelings that they're appearing on the process of the story, because he went there for a different reason and then I think is very, very, very important. And we went there by knowing the story. He went there and he discovered the story. So I think that his pictures are very, very interesting. They are saying many stories. One picture is 1,000 stories. His pictures 1,000 words. His pictures are 1,000 words and also 1,000 questions. That's why I'm saying that this meeting is very important to show the one side, the journalistic side, and the other side, the artist. Sometimes the art is saying more things than the reportage. And that's you have to have a lot of time there to realize what is happening. I told you the first time that I went there for ride, it was one journalist, Eva Giovannini, very nice journalist, but she was searching for. Sorry. Yep. She was searching for people. Okay. We went there, but we couldn't find people. We were finding mainly remains of people. So one night she was very furious and said, "Oh man, I don't want ghosts anymore." Sorry, yeah.
Wait, hold on. But yeah, thank you. Just because you had some background noise from yours. I'm sorry. Can you please continue?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. She told us, "I don't want any more ghosts. I want people." And then I realized, man, we're in the river of ghosts. Is it the river of ghosts? She said the story. That was the story, in my opinion. Okay. Later, Rai didn't want the story of ghosts. They want the story of people talking on camera while you cross the river. But from that point, started inside of me to build the idea of the river of ghosts, the territory of ghosts. In these waters, in these mountains, there are thousands of souls that have been lost and that they are not going to be found again. So, that's why I'm telling you that it's very different, the journalistic aspect of the story, okay, covering the story, covering the pushbacks, and it's different level and more important, in my opinion, okay, for me, because I'm a journalist, for Bastien, that he's approaching the matter on the feeling, and he with his camera, he's trying to show us the feelings that are happening inside him, are growing inside of him. Yeah. Okay. On the level of the field, it's very difficult there to go and film. You have to be very careful not to be arrested because it's a militarized zone. Even that the other Europeans that don't understand what that means, you might walk on the river and to cross from a fighting position. So you shouldn't take a picture of that. They're not realizing that. They're filming, but they're filming something that it shouldn't be seen on the video. So you have to be very careful. You have to explain to the media teams that are coming what is there and what is allowed and what is not allowed. Of course, most of the times we are doing things that they're not allowed, but you have to keep a balance and between the local people and us that we are coming, because their feeling about what is border and what is taken there and what are the dangers there are different from our opinion. The last time I went there for WOZ, is a Swiss newspaper with journalists there, and I remember it was after the big fire in Dadia, okay, and we asked Sakis. Why does he think about the fire started by the refugees or migrants crossing or started from other causes? And he told us, and it's very interesting that he said that, no, this fire was being made by the Turkish intelligence on purpose to clear all the area of this Dadia forest so they can see the army movements, the tank movements, and things like that. Now there are no trees. So from the other side, from the Turkish side, they can see what is happening on that mountain in Dadia. So it's a very interesting aspect to talk with the local people there. Okay, I don't believe that the Turkish intelligence put the fire, but they believe that. So we have to respect also the way they are thinking, because we are not staying there. I mean, Thessaloniki, okay, you're all over Europe. You're not feeling any threat there. You're not understanding, and I'm not understanding what is the situation living in these areas. But it's very important to talk with these people and to listen what they say, not to agree with them, but to listen what they say.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you again also for this wonderfully in-depth answer. For everybody who would lack a little bit of context, the reference that Antonis gave to Dadia is when the wildfires happened indeed over the summer, and there were 18 people, 18 refugee migrants.
20.
20.
There were 18 together and 2 in different places, 20.
Then my apologies, but yes,
Ah,
those were the events that happened. And Sakis is, of course, referring to Sakis Kamilaris, a fisherman who's also a quite interesting local figure, rescuing people, but also reporting people, and is a somewhat of a wonderfully anticlimactic character. Also a little bit on like the River of Ghosts. Like I think you've been also at that point working together with VPro, no? Who then covered the big piece that was also titled The River of Ghosts, which is also I think an hour-long documentary that that you can watch, best to my knowledge, on YouTube as well. So dear people, do yourself a favor, watch Antonis's work as well, and thank you. Like I think you can, you know, speaking on behalf of guys like Bastien and me who come and you know, try to explore a new context or a new terrain, it is always incredibly enriching to meet people like you, and then particularly also of you, Antonis, that has been covering this for such an extent and has access to all of these local features that I think many of us miss, or you know, particularly when there's a big, again, news or agency coming by, you know, stuff that just falls off the thread and circles back a little bit to the things that you mentioned in the beginning, that it can be rather dull and it is a rather dehumanizing form and fashion by which, you know, news counts fly by on the issue. So I agree with you that I'm also very happy that I got this luxury to have the composition of both ends together. And with that, to another piece of that, Zubair, you mentioned that of course you've been covering humanitarian issues for many years now, and then also we're able to trace back basically the other side from the border, where people would actually get ready or get in the process of crossing. And then many people also in the past reach out to you about already having crossed and facing difficulty in terrain. That means that, of course, you also have a fundamentally different work process in there. Can you tell us a little bit about how you developed pieces on the Evros and what was particularly important in your work?
Yeah, but I need to acknowledge first that the approach of Bastien and Antonis, I was listening to, like, very interesting. I really like their approach. I agree. It's a very useful conversation. Also, for the first time, I'm listening to their approach on Evros. It's very interesting to hear them. Yeah, like Ghost River is such a good description when it comes to Evros and crossings, because I started to follow the crossings because I do investigative journalism, so I don't like do daily coverage, and I mean I do investigate. So there were several incidents on Evros and in the Aegean, you know, like boats capsizing, and then, you know, like migrants that are getting drowned in the river, in the sea, and then there were so many claims of pushbacks on the border as a de facto European policy, you know, to stop migrants from coming to Turkey, coming from Turkey to Europe. So I found it very interesting in means of like investigation, because so many people were pushed back, but it was only like you know, it was claim, because you never like it's not easy to track those people after they are being pushed back, after they are illegally deported, you know, illegally deported from the border, as Antonis mentioned, like military zone. So no civilians, no journalists are allowed from both sides. Like you cannot really enter the, you know, I mean, it's a very interesting area that I've seen, like some fields, like farmers are working, and then there is not, it's not really certain like when the military zone starts. So some areas of Evros, like you can just like be right next to a farmer's field, and then the military zone starts, but then you cannot document anything in the military zone. It's the same with the Turkey side, like the military controls that you know, that river, the bank of the river, which means that they can do whatever they want to do. Actually, like, you know, there is no way to document. Like, it's a really hard job for researchers, photographers, for journalists to document something, what's happening there. There is Frontex, there are like different European organizations following, like supposed to be following the cases out there, but then a systemic pushback has been like going on the border. So my like first.
Okay,
The
my English is not so good.
Awesome, but I cannot work with her because
Like, for example, like I was.
Johanna, I'm terribly sorry. Could you possibly mute yourself,
She was
please?
giving the training that speaking.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, like I remember like when I started to like focus on pushbacks or like the crossings or like human rights violations, police brutality on the border, I remember my motivation. I wanted to track those people because there were numbers, you know, like Bastien and Antonis like mentioned like in a very interesting way, like sometimes journalistic work can be limited to numbers, like, but those people are not numbers. That's why, you know, photographers, like filmmakers, journalists, they try to document, they try to get their stories. So this was my first motivation to follow those pushbacks, because I mean, you hear from someone that they reach out to you as a journalist in the field, they say, okay, my relative, my friend, my, you know, family member was pushback last night. And then, I mean, you cannot really follow, you cannot really document, and because it's a ghost river. thanks to the militarized zone, that no civilians, no, you know, human rights organizations are allowed to also check. My motivation was to track those people being pushed back from Greece to Turkey. So because some of those people, some of them, let's say some Syrians, they were pushed back by Greece, and then they were pushed back to Syria by Turkey. So like they are fleeing a civil war, they cross the border, nearest country, Turkey, and then they try to reach out to Europe, and then they are being pushed back from Greece, from the EU soil. We need to underline this, from the European Union soil back to Turkey, and then Turkey, in most cases, in several cases that I've also followed, I interviewed people, they deport them back to Syria, which is a like war-torn country, claiming that they made some areas safe for Syrians. Yeah, so my investigation started from that point. I wanted to follow, like, find those people who were pushed back and listen to their stories, and if it is possible, to document, to prove that this pushback actually took place, which categorically the Greek government denies the allegations. Yeah.
Thank you again as well also for this very thorough answer. I'm also going to add a little bit of context for everybody who would not be aware of many of the things that you also referenced. So in regards to the military zone, that is indeed a very somewhat arbitrary arranged space. That means that, for example, the ZAP, as it is, you know, called in Greek, is also not clearly defined also for many of the people who will be present. And one of your colleagues also from forensic architecture, Stefanos Levidis, with whom you of course cooperated on the Ayşe Erdogan case, referred to it as a continued state of exception, about the space where basically human rights violations can happen without any type of accreditation to it. And of course, many of the cases that you referred to in regards to violations to norms and basically a handful of laws regarding non-refoulement, regarding access to asylum, regarding, you know, fair care of conduct, and multiple paragraphs within the European Convention on Human Rights, the European Charter of Fundamental Rights, UN principles, and many things else, including, by the way, Greek national laws as well. So within the things that you mentioned, I think if I already got myself a little bit into the Ayşe Erdogan case, could you give us a little bit of a case example of like how you go about your work, because you're also, you know, approaching the subject matter again through a very fundamentally different stage. And like I kind of know, because we've been speaking before and we've been covering similar angles on this end, but on, for example, one case, how were you able to verify these accounts that you mentioned, that, for example, somebody was already in Greece and that there is proof of their pushbacks? How does one imagine this process go in terms of an investigative journalist daily?
Okay, like I think this is important also to give this background information, because like there is mass migration, like you know, has been taking place on the Turkish-Greek border from different like countries, like different nationalities, like different backgrounds. Since Turkish government has a doesn't have a like migration policy, it changes its policy towards Syrians, Afghans, Libyans, like, you know, all like different countries, depending on their like policy, which sometimes change like in a month or 2 months. And since Turkey doesn't give any refugee status to migrants fleeing, let's say, like civil war, like coming from Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, they just like Turkey gives them a temporary protection. So and there are also so many systemic problems regarding their stay in Turkey. It's also part of the deal between the EU and Turkey, which was kind of a bribery, like just giving money to a country to keep people in that country without really like caring their conditions, their situation out there. If there is an integration policy, if there is like any accommodation facilities for them, it's just numbers for them. It's just money and numbers. So we need to like first give this background information, because that's why all those people, they try to leave Turkey for Europe, for a better future, for a better life. So when they are pushed back from Greece, it's really difficult to track them back in Turkey, because like sometimes the Turkish authorities on the border, sometimes they release them, and then out of fear they just like hide, and then maybe they try again to go to Europe. If they are lucky enough not to be deported to Syria or the country where they are coming from, it's really difficult to track them back in Turkey. But when it comes to Turkish nationals, like people like Turkish Kurdish people from Turkey fleeing like political persecution, when they are caught by the Turkish authorities, in most cases they are arrested on political charges. So in 2019, like I realized, like on the border, like so many reports of pushbacks, the claims, and then I started to follow those cases. I reached out to people like witnesses, like friends, families, and stuff. And then my motivation was to follow a few cases, but then it was crazy. Like it was crazy, like at least like 10, 20 cases of pushbacks, claims, like and I started to publish on my Twitter account, like the cases that I could confirm from both sides, from like through the witnesses, like even like a person is arrested back in Turkey, I reach out to their families and stuff, and I got information. In many cases I got pictures from people, family members and friends of those people who made it to the EU actually, and I started to follow these like pushbacks on daily basis. Yeah, and the Ayşe Erdoğan case is a like flagship case now in the European Court of Human Rights. Her twin brother reached out to me on Twitter to tell me that like his twin sister crossed the border on Evros, and then he shared her video, like together with 2 other asylum seekers from Turkey, shared their videos with me. And then I started to follow that case because it was systemic. Whomever crosses the border, regardless of nationality, regardless of like, they were not even listening to their asylum claim or anything. They were just collecting them, you know, in a in most cases in a Greek police station, and then at night they were like pushing them back with lorries, with vans, with no plate number, right next to like around where Frontex and some other European officials operate, like in the same area. And then Aisha Erdogan was not a case for me. I got the video and stuff, but then her twin brother, he like told me that, okay, she went to a Greek police station in Orestiada, and they let a local Greek lawyer, they informed the Greek lawyer saying that, okay, my family member just like crossed the river, and then she's going to a Greek police station to apply for asylum. That's why I say great description that Antonis mentioned. Ghost river, also ghost people, because the lawyer could not get in touch with her until she actually physically goes to the police station. Because I asked why, because the lawyer said otherwise the authorities blame them for people smuggling if they get in touch with someone who needs help, like, you know, even like legal help. No, a lawyer followed the group until they went to a Greek police station. He took their pictures in a park, and then they shared their videos in front of a like an official notary building in the region. And then they went to the police station, and then they applied for asylum. But then right after that, a lawyer and then her twin brother, they went to the same police station that they were just like watching them from far. They went to the police station. They asked about the whereabouts of Aisha Erdogan, and then the Greek police said, we don't have such a person here. We don't have such a person. And then that night she was pushed back, and then I tracked. She was arrested in Edirne by the Turkish authorities on political charges. She was sent to prison, and I think she spent. She had already spent some like time like in jail, and then after she was released, she tried to. She was released on pending trial on judicial control, which means that she could have gone back to the jail again. And yeah, so then I interviewed her through her lawyers in Turkey also, and I documented all those like videos, also the videos and the photos that she shared with her family before she was arrested by the Greek authorities. And then, yes, we collaborated with some local NGOs in Athens, like Human Rights 360, Greek Council for Refugees, with lawyers, and also Stefanos from the Forensic Architecture, because they were also interested in the case, because maybe for the first time, they had a proof, concrete evidence on a pushback. And then they launched they started this like legal procedure in local courts. Over the years, the local courts ruled that okay, those three people never been to Greece. Like that's what they. And then they went to the European Court of Human Rights. I think this year, in the following months, the European Court of Human Rights will, make a decision on Aisha Erdogan's case. It might be a sample case for other pushbacks. But still is ongoing. So nothing happened like in the Greek judiciary. But yeah, European Human Court of Rights with all those like proof and evidence, they will like rule on something. We don't know yet. Yeah.
Thank you very much as well for
About
this.
what Zubair is saying is very interesting and very important. There were two lawyers from Thessaloniki. For a period, because people they wanted to push back, so they were calling lawyers and saying, we're going to be at that point, you come and get us and take us to the police station. And these lawyers were going there and doing that. And they were accused from the police as smugglers, as Zubair is saying. But the prosecutor, okay, they went to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor said, okay, of course you are not smugglers, but this is the fear even for the lawyers to go and meet some refugees. When I meet refugees on the way to Thessaloniki, always with international media, usually we're taking pictures and videos, and we talk and say, my name is Adonis Repanas, I'm a journalist. I just met them here outside of Alexandroupolis. Please don't push them back. We did a documentary for two Dutch filmmakers called Shadow Game, and we were following two minors. So we did an interview, a video in Thessaloniki, all of us, all the team of Shadow Game, with these minors talking on camera, on their phones. I'm that. We were telling our names. We were shooting a documentary. We met them in Thessaloniki. Please don't push them back. And then they were going to Serbia. Again, the team went there and make the same video. We are that team of Shadow Game. We're following these guys. Please don't push them back. So they had an insurance when they were going to be arrested or stopped from the police to show the video. Look, they know that I'm here. Don't push me back. Take me to the camp. Tell me what I can do, but don't push me back. So it's something that I'm doing when I'm seeing people nearby the river or further down. But this thing that Zubair said is very important also. I remember once we were doing a story for Deutsche Welle about pushbacks, and we met in Thessaloniki Mama Rosa, Rose Hansen. She was amazing German woman. I don't, you know Mama Rosa? She's amazing. Now she's in Germany. So we met there a guy called Taki. This guy, Taki, was from Morocco, and he was working he told us on camera that he was working for the Greek authorities doing the pushbacks, because, you know, the boats are being guided, and the people that they are rowing the boats are also refugees or migrants. So if Turkish police from the other side arrest them, they're not Greek. They're not going to have a problem. So he told us everything on camera, in which prison he was staying, what people he had met, the people that the police officers that they were taking him on the riverbank were also speaking English. So maybe it was Frontex that knew about that. Okay. But then Deutsche Welle couldn't use the interview because they couldn't prove the things that Taki was saying. So the thing that Zubair said, that it's very difficult to prove the things that these people are saying. And of course, we all know that they are true. Okay, I have never met, not even one refugee that have crossed from Evros, that he haven't been pushed back 2, 3, 4 times. Now, if you made it in once, then you play lotto. You're very lucky. You made it once.
Actually met one guy.
You met one?
I met one guy this summer who made it out the first run.
Wow.
Must get ghost then.
Tell him to play lottery.
Yeah. Right. Also, I think like I gotta have a bit of context here as well. Like for anything, or mainly the majority of the things that Zubair was mentioning, I highly recommend for anybody who's watching or listening to us now. Also, check out the visual piece of that investigation that Zubair was mentioning in collaboration with FA. They do together with Zubair a fantastic job in mitigating this absence of this visual regime that is keeping everything out of its harm's eyes, as we talked within this zone of exceptionality. And particularly interesting thing for anybody who's interested in how does this work also goes in depth about how people were traced through geolocating on WhatsApp messages, how threads of conversations were put together, how the timeline of calls and whereabouts were forming a very stable and cohesive narrative that is partially the reason why, for example, Aisha has now the chance to go to the ECTHR with this one, because people like Zubair have been providing fantastic work and evidence of their claims, and which is why it's also exceedingly difficult also in regards to what Antonis has mentioned right now, that many investigative journalists, of course, cannot cover the huge quantity of pushbacks that do happen, so that there would be sufficient enough evidence for our claims. However, like that's maybe something for the next crowdfunding event on the 6th, when we talk more about civil sphere, and NGOs will have been putting on forward wonderful efforts onto it. Although I will mention that actually on our first event, we had the chance to speak with Natalie Gruber, who is been former director of Yasur, who has operated the only NGO on the Turkish side that was keeping track on this piece. So for anybody who would like to know more about the large quantity and testimonies from the people who were collected, and then also discover a bit more depth on the things that Antonis mentioned later onwards, with refugees being employed to push back other refugees on behalf of the Greek authorities, can find all that there. I think the recording is still on our YouTube channel. Yeah, and last thing on like shadow games, really wonderful documentary. Again, by the way, Antonis, incredible work. And also as a first of context there, there's also, best to my knowledge, the parallel investigation from Lighthouse Reports, which was called Shadow Armies at the time. So for anybody who would want to find out more about that, do yourself a favor and go through that. Right, time is of essence, because I do believe Bastien has to unfortunately leave fairly soon. So back to kind of the original outline where we were on a bit of the macro scale of how the field was, a terrain for you to mitigate and to navigate and to kind of explore with your own métiers and fields. Then Bastien, question to you before you have to leave. We got to experience this great case study from Zubeir in regards to Asia Erdogan and further contextualizing one particular piece. Do you have some sorts of like one particular individual encounter that would have shaped your experience around Evros, like perhaps a surprise or perhaps something that was particularly unexpected, or where this discovery approach by which you went
I
to
mean,
Evros in the first place was visual?
I mean, what shaped it, I think, was like just few days after my arrival in Edirne. It was more like a shock, actually. I met someone in my hostel, I mean, the small hostel I was staying at, which was like Libyan, and he brought me like 2 days later to see one of his friends who just actually been pushed back, and he was like lying in a bed, totally beat up. And that's, I think, for me was a pivot. That's how I realized I didn't know anything about what's going on and how violent it was. That was definitely its time. After after there's like plenty of moment, like Antonis was talking about, like there is no proof of the Greek authorities using migrants to do the pushbacks. It's actually one photo I missed during my time in Greece. I wasn't able to take it, but I randomly walked to one situation where was like I don't know, was like great. I mean, not great, but like was a terrible summary of the situation. I randomly again walked by like a Greek police station in a small village, and I saw like in the backyard next to it there was like one Greek soldier, I guess, or policeman. I mean, soldier was like wearing camo and stuff, drinking like an iced coffee, like Greek style, and giving orders to 4 or 5 young men, which I believe, I mean, are most likely migrants, like pumping some air in one of the dinghies they use for the pushbacks. And I actually didn't have I mean, I didn't take the picture because I edited it and then I got spotted and then it would be like a mess. But that's definitely one regret I have in one thing I missed. Yeah, well, anything else you wanna ask?
Given that we have only for a limited time only at this point, is there anything else particularly that you feel that you would want later at another stage cover around the Evros, or are you more or less now basically, in your own opinion, kind of moved on from the subject, or like, are you finishing the completion of your work in that regard?
No, I mean, I'm finishing the work as the book is coming out pretty soon and in a couple of months. So I don't think in the near future I'm gonna go back. Maybe later, but not in the near future for sure. No, I mean, I just want to say, like, it was really, really interesting to hear like both, I mean, three sides of the same stories, like three approaches, which are like quite different but really complementary, I think, to get this whole view of the region. And I think it's really important work because like as myself, I didn't know anything of, I mean, I knew something, but not at the extent of what was happening in the region in terms of human rights violation before going there. So I think in Europe, I mean, maybe not in Greece because they are way closer to that, but like in the rest of Europe, we don't realize it. We don't realize what's happening. We are talking about numbers before. Like, yes, migrants are often seen as numbers, but they obviously are not. So I think this.
Your emoji.
Guys, Johanna, could you please mute yourself again? Okay, never mind. Done with. Please go on, Bastien. I'm sorry about it.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I mean, anyway, I want to see like it's like really important to see what's happening on the European doorstep and what is done on our name and with actually our like kind of financial support, like through taxes or anything. So it's I mean, just to say it's really important to talk about it because like people don't know or choose not knowing at least what's going on really.
Right. Is it confirmed the book is coming out on 3rd of April?
Yeah, going to the printer next Sunday.
Right.
Philippe, can I ask something, Bastien? Because he's
By
doing...
all means, please.
Okay, thank you. Because his project is about borders and rivers on the borders. I would like to ask Bastien if the feeling that he had in Evros, or the pictures that he have seen, or stories that he have seen in Evros, if he have seen it, or the feelings were the same in other rivers that were separating countries all over the world, because you have been in other countries also, as I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a few. I mean, as a matter of like the border river projects, it's just I'm just doing the second chapter, but which is like in French Guyana, so like South America, between France and Suriname. And it's why it's really interesting and why I chose this second river is like it's a totally opposite aspect of the border. Like like Evros is basically a wall. It's like you don't. It's a line, and you do not cross it. Or if you do, it's like we all know what's happening. And instead, the Maroni River is really different. Like it's a way to navigate. You're just going from one shore to the other. You use it as the kind of road. I mean, it's the only access for a lot of villages all along the river, basically. So it's more like a way to communicate than to separate.
Congrats, Lasse, on your new book. I also want to have one. Yeah, please
Yeah,
send me a link where
sure.
I can. Yeah.
I'm very glad you sneaked in that question, Antonis, because I had it written out here
And
as well. But
okay, sorry. And I have a picture of Bastien here. This is your picture, Bastien. He sent me that picture. There.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
I mean, nice. You put it on your wall. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's a very nice
Well,
picture.
thanks.
It's a very nice picture. It's a picture with feelings. Feelings are more important than journalist job. Sometimes
that's complementary for sure.
Love that we are all fans of one another and that you guys can get excited about completely different angles by which you've been covering the same thing. So that's always nice to hear, and always glad that these things can come together. But again, also, Bastien, thank you then very, very much. Keep us posted about your further endeavors in Europe or beyond. And for everyone who missed it for first time, April 3rd, book's coming out. Drop us a link. Maybe we can share it on Anahoma.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I will. And just for the word, it's a book which is like co-written. So there is me and there is a French philosopher, which did like a wonderful essay about the politics at the border and all the consequences. So it's not just me, but too.
Thank you again, and have
Thank
a,
you.
have a wonderful
Thanks a
evening.
lot. I'm so sorry, but I really need to run.
Oh, it's
No
okay.
worries.
We started with a
All
delay.
right.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right, and then there were only three. But you know, it is true that we've been talking for an extended amount of time, and God knows the issue is exceedingly complex that we'll never solve it within one Zoom call. So therefore, given that you know, you both already kind of highlighted certain aspects of like individual cases that you had the chance to work on, just to circle back to the original idea that by which we all kind of got together, what was kind of the most surprising thing that you managed to experience within the Evros, or was there something that, you know, particularly stuck with you that you did not see yourself focusing as much on that particular aspect of the story?
Please, Antonis. Yeah.
The most, you know, the thing that not shocked me, but impressed me most is when I was starting to doing stories about pushbacks. I was starting talking with friends of mine that they have been doing the army service nearby Evros. They were telling me that pushbacks were happening for decades. I mean, I have witnesses from happening from 80s, from 90s. So pushbacks were always happening, but now they're happening in a larger scale. It's good that journalists, now we have social media, we have journalists going there and searching and doing things as Zubair is doing research, and now we know about it. But unfortunately, it was always happening for decades. It's very sad.
Also, by the way, for anybody who wants to find out more about that, and I keep referring to her basically on every event that I hold on the subject matter, the research of Lena Karamanidou, absolutely
Yeah, it's
inseparable
very
on this
important, very
subject.
essential.
Incredible researcher. But thank you very much for your answers, Antonis. Zubair, what about you?
Yeah, to your question, I don't know, like I don't have a list, but it's really heartbreaking what I've like witnessed out there, both in the like sea and land border. But yeah, like trying to talk to people like who lost their families on a like capsized boat and then, you know, arrested the day after they lost their families, their wife, their children. It was really heartbreaking. Not only Evros, also I worked on Lesbos. Let's say, like I went to the Moria jungle and stuff. I interviewed people, like I found a Syrian mechanical engineer, for example, in Lesbos, and I published his story on Euronews back then. I'm mentioning his story because what he told me, I put it as a headline on my like report. He was saying if Europe, he fled war, civil war from Syria to Turkey, lived in Syria for 5-6 years, and then he was deported to Syria. And then he decided to leave Turkey. And then he reached Lesbos. And then he told me, if Europe sends me back to Turkey, I will commit a suicide. It's not numbers, it's not stories, it's like people's lives. It's people's like real stories, real struggle, real sufferings, real like trying to find the future. Like so many heartbreaking things have been taking place. As Antonis like mentioned, the pushbacks have been taking place on the Greek-Turkish border for a very long time. But it's more systemic now. It's more like a de facto European border policy. We need to underline this. This is Amnesty International's report, actually. They say so. It's like a de facto European politics. It's not only Greece. Yeah, so maybe, I mean, are we saying like our last words or something? Yeah, kind of.
I mean, I actually wanted to also give like a chance for
Yeah,
you to then
so
later talk about.
yeah, I wanted to like, I think this is very important to people like who are following migration and like all the debates around, like, because like I mean, I'm based in the UK. I lived in several countries, like in the Middle East, in Europe, different countries. I keep hearing the same arguments, like from like some circles. They try to make people like think locally when it comes to migration. Like when you interview people in Turkey, like migrants, Syrians, Afghans are the scapegoats for the bad economy. that like the Turkish government is responsible for. If you ask the same question in Greece, you will like hear similar things from people that they will say, oh, like migrants are coming and this happens. Same in the UK, migrants are coming, like this happens, this bad thing happens. Like always migrants are the scapegoats, but people need to stop and ask why those people have to be on the move, why they leave their countries. Like, I mean, like such a term that is being like European officials, authorities, they like using this phrase, saying that third safe country. And then as a journalist who like worked on the Greek-Turkish border, also Syrian-Turkish border in Iraq and like in the Middle East, there is, if they claim that there is a safe third country, then they need to ask why those people try to flee Turkey to reach Europe. This is a very important question that needs to be answered. And you can see all the answers from different aspects, from different backgrounds. And we have seen after the Russian invasion in Ukraine, we have seen how Europe managed to create the safe passage for Ukrainians who wanted to leave their countries. But it's not like it was not done for Syrians, where all global powers, regional powers are part of the problem, part of the war. And, you know, invasion of Afghanistan, and after like decades, you leave power for Taliban. You even don't create a safe passage for the translators that you like working for your embassy, who are direct targets of that regime that you just like out of the blue you left. Since there is no safe passage to those people that we are now talking about, that's why they take the risk. They risk their lives and come to the borders. It's like it's not only about like Greece or like Turkey or like, you know, in general, like one by one countries. It's more like the failure of European politics, also like the regional powers policies and politics, like including Turkey and other regional powers.
Thank you very much. Like, this was such a wonderful, eloquent answer that I think is deeming almost to be last words. But on that end, then, Antonis, is there something particular that you feel like you know, people have not been focusing on while they were reporting on the Evros?
That he said, yeah, we have failed, and we the journalists, we have failed to introduce these people with their stories to other countries. And I'm sensing that, the editing, there are timelines. So there is one timeline is our lives, and another timeline is the refugees and migrants' lives. So it's like that. If you open the Premiere, it's a timeline, our life, and another timeline. When you go to Evros, there are timelines crossing around you. The timeline of the locals, the timeline of the poor refugees or people that some of them they will die on the river. So I think that we have failed as journalists also. There is, okay, of course, there are some examples like you, Zubir, and other people that are doing investigative journalism, but in general, we have failed even to introduce these people with the stories to the audience, to tell them who these people are. The first time that I went to Idomeni and I saw the refugees, very dirty, very ugly, sitting down, I said, oh man, what is this? I was afraid of them. And then every day I was going there for tea in their tents and sharing food with them. They're still friends of mine. I have many friends all over Europe. And, they became like us when like us, okay? When they changed clothes, they found a normal life, a peaceful life, somewhere in Germany or some here in Greece. I remember my brother, I brought a family here, Amina is a very good friend of mine. She was from Syria, now she's in Sweden. And with other friends from Syria, and we were eating. It was Ramadan, after at night, it was starting to eat. And I remember Amina was waiting for the sun to go down, and we had the food in front of us. Hey, Amina, come on, man, oh no, wait. What do you mean, wait? Let's eat. Okay, we're joking. And my brother came and told me, hey, they're laughing. I said, man, of course they're laughing. Of course, they're humans like us. Of course they're laughing, because my brother is a coach, swimming coach. He didn't know anything about refugees. And he told me, man, they're laughing. So we as journalists, we should have introduced them to the other people as people that they're also laughing. They're not only crying, they're laughing also. They're like us. They have the same feeling like us. And another thing that I'll be very fast. the thing that Zubair described with this guy's civil engineer is the thing that I'm saying is the journey of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was condemned from the gods, in the ancient Greek gods, was condemned to roll a big stone on a mountain, and then the stone was going down, and again every day the same. And this game, you know, this game with the ladders and the snakes. You climb a ladder, you push the snake, you go back. You climb the ladder, you put the snake and go back. So the refugees in Evros and in Aegean and in other places, they're witnessing that. This game that we're playing in our houses, they're playing, they're living that in their everyday lives, trying to cross borders. And the last one, I'm finishing because I can talk for hours about these things. I went to the floats this summer in Greece. You remember the floats, floating everything. Okay, so we went to the village. It was under the water. Was the German channel. We went inside with a big tractor because we couldn't go with a car. It was the church. The church, it was in a small hill, and on the side of the church were houses of Roma, of gypsies. Okay, you know, all over the world, they don't really like gypsies. They're like refugees. They're not refugees. Okay, they were Greek, but they treat them like that. Not so. There was a girl. We made an interview with her, and she told me, you know, man, these people, Roma, when they came to the village, we say, dirty, ugly, stealing, doing, blah, blah, blah. And my brother was talking about them and about the migrants crossing from Evros because he was something like a right winger. And now, the 2 nights that we were in that hill, they were cooking for us. These people were cooking for us to eat. All together, we were eating with these people. I mean, so we have failed to introduce them. I think it's a matter of respect and introduction to these people. We have failed as journalists. Okay, thank you guys.
A wonderfully uplifting message said with a gorgeous smile of yours. But no, many great important things in there. And also thank you very much for the very descriptive metaphors that you used throughout. I think like, you know, we've already been at each other for like 2 hours. If we open the Roma question around Europe, I think it's going to be another 6. So without further ado, I think, like, you know, again, the issues are incredibly complex, and you both raised incredibly valuable points. If you still are a bit of willing, I would love for the people who have been listening to us maybe also have the chance to quickly ask a couple of questions, like, you know, like maybe not much, but like it's like we have, like, I think a solid 15 minutes till like 8 p.m. if that's all right with you. If we have any questions,
fine. Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you guys. So anybody who's been on call,
I have to ask my daughter. I have to take her to ballet lessons, but I'm asking quick, and I'm coming. Wait, I'll ask you if I have time. Okay, one
Nice.
minute.
I would not want to keep you from your from your
yeah,
ballet
we can
lessons.
get questions.
We can get one going. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. The question to Zubair only then, if anybody has one. If anybody has one. Folks are shy these days, particularly on migration.
And yeah, I have a question to you. Like when are we gonna be watching your documentary on Evros?
Right. God, did not expect that one. Great.
Guys, I'm sorry, I have to go.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm very
okay.
sorry.
It's okay. Antonis, thank you very much for everything. We'll be in
Thank you.
touch.
Keep reporting, guys. Keep reporting. It's very important to report. And keep introducing. Zubair. Try to introduce.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, Antonis. Okay.
And the next time you come to Thessaloniki, we meet.
Yes, of course. I want to visit.
Still owe you a goulash, huh?
Yeah, you owe me that. Yes.
And
yes.
yeah, and then if you come to London, be my guest. Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Kalispera.
Bye.
Yeah, Philip.
Yeah.
I think we don't have any questions, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I slowly close this off then, and thank you very much for the good bridge on that one. If anybody would have them questions, by the way, feel free to write them in the text in the meanwhile, so I can perhaps later put them forward. But yeah, Antonis is, by the way, also part of our co-releases in Greece. So we are very, very happy to have them on Human Stories together with Omnia. So, you know, the big split in Thessaloniki to Athens, we decided to go both.
Nice. Yeah, I really, I don't know, I find it very important to follow the works of local journalists. Like, you know, like it's always different. Like if you're an international journalist going to another country where you're not like a citizen, it's different than, you know, reporting on those like internal politics about your own
Absolutely.
country. I
Yeah.
really find it very important what Anthony is doing in
Antonis
Thessaloniki.
does
For the
impeccable work.
international media as a Greek journalist.
Yeah, that's why I also wanted to highlight his work on human stories, because, like, you know, Antonis, of course, always refers to him as a fixer because, like, that's what he's been doing, but like he does many more things than that. But again, just to like kind of close things off, and you know, put everybody onto their nights further onwards, because it will be a Thursday, yeah, and then we still gotta have our cigarettes afterwards. In regards to the film, we are currently working very hard to hit our target to pick up our premiere by May 17th. Now, the reason why that is not an official release date yet is because we're still struggling to go through the entire process. So that's also the reason why we hold these crowdfunding events, to secure everything to the earliest possible release date. You know, I'm also very happy and glad to have such a wonderful team with whom I'm able to work with on this one. And that was also articulated within our latest Vienna event, where people who did not know who the staff is at that point got to meet animator, got to meet producer, got to meet score person, I mean the composer, and editor Tom. But yes, like, you know, we've been talking about just the preliminary aspect of what Evros is for easily 2 hours. So to crunch through everything and to put it into a cohesive narrative piece that highlights many of the things that, like, you know, you yourself also mentioned, and Antonis and Bastien as well, it's a tedious amount of work, for which at this point I very much apologize to my editor and producer if they're watching. But I try. And yes, we're definitely gonna be releasing in May. We definitely want to be ready before the European Parliamentary elections, and I hope to tell you a release date, a fixed release date earliest. But for that, dear people, if you're with us, please consider to make a donation to the project. You can find out everything on anachoma.com, and also, of course, with the link that will be posted in attachment to this video file. Thank you very much to all of you who've been listening or watching. And of course, I mean, at this point, I would, you know, say thank you to all of the rest of the guests, but it's only the two of us. So thank you also very much for your time.
Thank you very much for organizing this, and fingers crossed about your documentary. It's a very important job, I believe, and I can't wait to see it in your UK premiere.
Oh, you're great in it. You know, I've been just editing the pieces of the Turkish part today. Like, oh, super year. That'd be charming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for joining. Goodbye.